The Gospel according to Matthew, chapter 28, verses 1 through 10. Listen now for a word from God. After the Sabbath, as the first day of the week was dawning, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to see the tomb. And suddenly there was a great earthquake, for an angel of the Lord, descending from heaven, came and rolled back the stone and sat on it. His appearance was like lightning, and his clothing white as snow. For fear of him, the guards shook and became like dead men. But the angel said to the women, "Do not be afraid. I know that you are looking for Jesus who was crucified. He is not here, for he has been raised as he said. Come, see the place where he lay. Then go quickly and tell his disciples, he has been raised from the dead. And indeed, he is going ahead of you to Galilee. There you will see him. This is my message for you." So they left the tomb quickly with fear and great joy and ran to tell his disciples. Suddenly, Jesus met them and said, "Greetings." And they came to him, took hold of his feet and worshiped him. Then Jesus said to them, "Do not be afraid. Go and tell my brothers to go to Galilee. There they will see me." This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. I once knew a man who liked everything to be neat and tidy. One of his favorite sayings was, "Grass in the grass and bark in the bark." His children tested his patience as they played in the yard, and bark migrated into the grassy areas. But he would patiently replace the bark in the bark area and care for the grass in the grass area. I think we all have a little bit of that man in us. On some level, we want things to stay neat and tidy. Everyone that I know has certain things that they don't want left at loose ends. Some people can't stand having dirty dishes left in the sink. Guilty. Others don't want anything left on the bedroom floor. Others must have everybody home for Thanksgiving, year after year after year. We want life to be like this ball of yarn, neat and tidy, so that we can wrap things up without any loose ends. I woke up when my alarm went off. I ate breakfast. I went to my appointment. Every car stopped at that red light. I made dinner. I vacuumed the floor. The car was full of gas, and it started when I turned the key. I brushed my teeth. You get the idea. We like our neat and tidy routines. We try to wrap our lives into a nice, neat ball where there are no loose ends. Everything is neat and orderly. But this creates an illusion of control that is quite deceptive. Loose ends are a part of life. Maybe my child is staying after school for a project, or I looked in the fridge and I don't have the main ingredient for dinner tonight. The yard is too wet to mow. Someone gets sick. The mail didn't arrive. I forgot to put the trash can out. Our computer has a virus. The electricity is out. Exceptions create loose ends. Like my pom-pom. I really like to think that my life is like this, a smooth ball of yarn with no loose ends. But really it looks a lot more like this pom-pom, which has nothing but loose ends. I think that Mary Magdalene and the other Mary are just like the rest of us. They wanted life to be predictable and in control. As they went to see the tomb, After the Sabbath day, the women would have expected the stone to be in place and Jesus' body to be laying where it had been put. They expected grief to continue. They assumed they would continue to live cautiously because of Roman rule. Those expectations grew from a life that was neat and orderly. After all, things that die stay dead. It's one of those fundamental truths we can count on, right? Life and death and taxes. In Matthew's telling of this story, the women went to see the tomb. In Mark's version, the women were bringing spices to anoint Jesus' body, and as they walked, they discussed who they could find to roll away the stone for them. In Luke's telling, the women also took spices, but the stone had already been rolled away. In John's version, there are no spices, and the stone had been rolled away before they arrived. In every telling of this story, what the women found was not neat and not orderly. Depending on the version you read, there were angels in white, stones that had moved, earthquakes, a gardener, and Jesus himself. There is chaos and change. Where were the nice, orderly wrappings of a life in control? But Jesus didn't come to maintain the status quo. Like the water turned into wine, the sick who were healed, the tables that were flipped over, everything has been transformed. That is the message of Easter. God is not dead. God is alive. Everything is open-ended. Life is more like a pom-pom ball than a neatly wrapped ball of yarn. Possibilities have opened up. Jesus is on the loose. The women went to the tomb assured of the fact that things that die stay dead. Death may be painful and cause grief, but it is consistent. What these women found was that neatly wrapped lives of order and control look more like shaggy loose ends with new rules. The rules have changed. God is alive. The tomb is empty. Jesus is not dead. He is going ahead of them to Galilee. And then Jesus appears, and the women recognize him. What a wonder to recognize the risen Lord. They grab a hold and worship him. And now those loose ends seem pretty wonderful when they tell the story that Jesus, the Messiah, is alive. There are possibilities in miracles. Everything is open-ended. The world has been shaken to its core. Death is not the end. The world will never be the same again. Jesus opens possibilities and creates those loose ends. Jesus was dead and now is alive and loose in the world. Like the women, on this day we fall down and worship. Like the women, our lives will never be the same. Resurrection changes everything. And Easter is just one day, but resurrection is every day. Life is open-ended. Where will we see Jesus next? An orderly and organized life seems stale. When we can look and expect Jesus around the next corner. God is loose in the world. Everything has changed. Christ is alive. Thanks be to God. Amen.